Well, a Strongsville teen is facing aggravated murder charges in connection with a car crash over the summer.
Mackenzie Shirilla, who at the time was 17 years old, is accused of intentionally crashing a vehicle with her 20-year-old boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his 19-year-old friend, Davion Flanagan, in the car.
It was just another warm Saturday night in the cozy Cleveland suburb of Strongsville, Ohio. But for 19-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla, her choices that night would destroy lives and shatter her own future. Mackenzie was a typical teenager, a strong student with a bright path ahead, but a series of reckless decisions led her down a destructive road that no one saw coming. On July 31st, 2022, Mackenzie went out late with her boyfriend Dominic Russo and their friend Davion Flanagan, both also 19. Sometime after midnight, the teens smoked marijuana to enhance their laid-back fun, but the drugs clouded their thinking and judgment. Just after 6 a.m., the trio loaded into Mackenzie's 2018 Toyota Camry. Surveillance cameras captured them speeding through sleepy residential streets at breakneck speeds over 100 miles per hour, yet Mackenzie never lifted her foot from the accelerator. Eyewitnesses report she tore through stop sign after stop sign, leaving a trail of wreckage in her wake. Speeding through the crossing at Progress and Alameda, the runaway vehicle violently careened into a brick office building. The deafening crash jolted neighbors from their sleep, alerting them that a grim tragedy had transpired just outside their doors. First responders, arriving on the chilling scene, found utter devastation. Inside the demolished Camry, Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davion were left unconscious and struggling for air amidst crushed metal and deployed airbags. Two of the car's young passengers would pay the ultimate price. By the time emergency crews wrested them from the mangled car, 20-year-old Dominic Russo and 19-year-old Davion Flanagan had succumbed to their traumatic injuries. The two promising young lives had been cut tragically short, mere weeks away from starting college. Somehow, despite the devastating impact, driver Mackenzie Shirilla survived the crash. But her minor physical injuries palled in comparison to the heavy emotional toll of losing two of her closest friends. And her struggles were just beginning as authorities pieced together the troubling truth behind the deadly incident. As investigators probed the devastating crash, they uncovered clues suggesting this was no mere accident. Data from the Camry and toxicology reports painted a chilling picture of a premeditated act of murder. Evidence showed Mackenzie intentionally accelerated to outrageous speeds before plowing into the building. Her blood tested positive for high levels of THC, proving she chose to drive while under the influence. But the biggest shock came as police discovered her motive. Through text messages and interviews with friends, investigators leaned Mackenzie deliberately crashed her car that morning to end the toxic relationship with her boyfriend, Dominic Russo. On the surface, Mackenzie and Dominic seemed like a picture-perfect couple bonding over their small-town roots. But behind closed doors, the story took a darker turn. Friends described frequent explosive arguments between the two. Dominic's controlling behavior often left Mackenzie feeling trapped in the relationship, provoking frequent breakups and reconciliations. But driven by a strong first love, Mackenzie struggled to cut ties for good. In the days leading up to the deadly crash, friends noted Mackenzie became increasingly withdrawn and upset. Her social media posts alluded to feeling depressed, worthless, and suicidal. It seemed the tempestuous relationship was taking its toll on her mental health. On the night of July 31st, a bold idea tragically took shape in Mackenzie's troubled mind. If she couldn't bring herself to leave Dominic, she would orchestrate a grand exit by ending both their lives. She decided to speed down Progress Avenue until colliding with a solid structure. But Mackenzie Shirilla's flirtation with death would have a lopsided outcome. While Dominic and Davion perished, she emerged almost inexplicably unscathed, and her choices that night would land her in the center of a firestorm yet to come. On the morning of August 1st, flags across Strongsville flew at half-mast as news spread of the tragedy that had befallen two of the town's promising youths. 20-year-old Dominic Russo and 19-year-old Davion Flanagan, both shy of their 20th birthdays, had perished in a devastating car collision while out late with friends. At Strongsville High School, grief counselors were quickly mobilized as despair swept through the halls. Dominic and Davion were both well-known seniors set to graduate in the spring. Their sudden deaths left classmates classmates and teachers reeling with sorrow and confusion. But shock turned to outrage as disturbing details emerged about the driver Mackenzie Shirilla's role in the deadly crash. How could an honors student turn her car into a murder weapon against people she supposedly cared for? The close-knit community demanded justice for the innocent lives lost. Local officials vowed a thorough investigation to hold accountable those responsible for the heartbreaking loss of two teens who were practically still kids. Within days, a grand jury convened to review evidence and determine criminal charges. Mackenzie Shirilla soon found herself under arrest, slammed with a dozen serious counts, including 4 for murder. But even in the face of overwhelming evidence, Shirilla pled not guilty, opting to take her case to trial. A contentious courtroom showdown now seemed imminent. Grieving families braced for the painful legal battle ahead, on the quest to find closure for their measurable loss. Inside a packed county courtroom, the prosecution argued Mackenzie made the unthinkable choice to take 2 lives in a premeditated murder plot. But her defense claimed it was just a reckless teenage mishap, not an intentional act of malice. Over weeks of grueling proceedings, disturbing details emerged painting Mackenzie as a deranged teen who used her car as a murder weapon. Video evidence showed her barreling towards doom at over 100 miles per hour without even tapping the brakes. For the family and friends of the victims, the revelations fueled their fury. How could Shirilla be so utterly careless with the lives of others? But no explanation could ease their profound grief over losing their loved ones so senselessly. A lengthy trial, culminating with a guilty verdict on all counts, offered some solace. But nothing could truly deliver justice for the 2 teens who never deserved to have their futures ripped away on that devastating July night. After 2 grueling weeks in court, a mountain of damning evidence sealed 19-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla's fate. On a bleak Monday afternoon, the judge prepared to hand down a sentence befitting such a chilling crime. Looking weary and hollow, Mackenzie sat in stunned silence as the verdict echoed through the courtroom, guilty on all 12 charges, including 4 counts of murder. Her reckless actions had ended 2 vibrant lives, leaving a community in mourning. Now it was time to pay. The judge spared no sharp words in condemning the senseless loss of life caused by Mackenzie's action. She described Mackenzie morphing from a law-abiding teen into literal hell on wheels as she accelerated towards her victim's demise. She chose a course of death and destruction that day, the judge proclaimed. She imposed the harshest punishment she could, sentencing Mackenzie to life behind bars, refusing any chance of parole. Although lives were senselessly lost in this tragedy, their memories remind us to make wise choices, value others, and live meaningfully. We hope future generations learn from Mackenzie's devastating mistakes. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, The Crime Clues for more true crime documentaries.